How's everybody doing? So this weekend, Borderlands came out. I went to go see it. This is my ticket. I went Thursday night. I paid $14.50 to go see this. When I went in, my theater was halfway full, but then again, you're in these modern theaters where it's no more than maybe 80 seats, so I would say there was probably 30 people scattered across my entire theater. When I go to my local multiplex, there was a decent amount of people walking into my section. You know how like when you go to multiplexes, you usually have like two hallways, like theaters like 1 through 10 on this side, rest of them on this side. Well, I go to this side, and there was a lot of people coming this way, and then I'm thinking, okay, Borderlands is going to be packed because there were some decent amounts of people in the earlier showings, and then I look up there, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it ends with us. It's just starting, and it's in 2 other showings. And if you look at the box office that weekend, this last weekend, it ends with us just dominated, while Borderlands made $8 million, and it's got a D+ cinema score, and it's not gonna make its budget back. This movie has a budget of between $110 and $120 million. This was just a situation of like, what the fuck happened? So, they've been trying to make this thing a long time. Eli Roth is hired in early 2020. They shoot it in the summer of 2021 in Budapest. Then it just sits on a shelf. According to a piece of IMDb trivia, and the stunt coordinator at least confirmed what they shot it as. They shot it as an R rating. They went for it. I have never played these games, but I know they are rated M for mature, and they go for it, right? So they shoot that, and according to this piece of IMDb trivia, Eli submitted his cut by the end of 2022, and then in the beginning of 2023, Lionsgate goes, all right, we want 2 weeks of reshoots. Eli was prepping Thanksgiving, so Tim Miller steps in and directs 2 weeks of reshoots. Now, I'm sure you're probably wondering how noticeable are reshoots sometimes, because sometimes it's not as much. Then you have examples like the theatrical cut of Suicide Squad, where Joel Kinnaman has 3 different haircuts in the movie. He has full buzz cut, he has a fade on top, and then there's one random sequence where they're walking through a crowd, and then there's one shot where just he has full-on bangs. Well, in this case, the opening sequence is definitely part of the reshoots, because in this opening sequence, Ariana Greenblatt towers over Kevin Hart. So, I just wonder how different this movie would have been. I'm not saying this movie would have been better, because you know what? Not every movie that is guaranteed a certain rating is going to work. But this is also produced by Avi Arad, who many may know for his history with Marvel, and then also he recently produced Uncharted, which made $400 million. So I'm assuming that was maybe a situation where after that movie did well with its rating, they thought, maybe let's make this a PG-13, that way you can get more access to these different demographics, maybe it'll do better at the box office. Well, it didn't. It fell flat on their face. Craig Mason took his name off. That was one thing that was very famous, if you follow Hollywood news. So, when I was watching this movie, I was wondering, this can't be worse than Madam Web. It can't be that bad, right? I watch it. It's not as bad as Madam Web. I can say that. There are scenes where I'm audibly going, this isn't terrible. It's not great either. The only chuckles I got were from Jack Black as Claptrap, and that was only once in a while. And I should say, I just said chuckles, not die-hard, like gut-busting laughter, which is what happens normally with Jack Black. I mean, Jack Black should have gotten a major awards consideration for his performance in Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle as a teenage girl. That shit was just comedy gold. So in Claptrap, a lot of his jokes are really hit and miss. Some of them are funny, some of them are just not, and then you just sit there and just waiting for the next scene to go over. Some of the action is decent. There's one sequence towards the end where they're just going up against just this swarm of people, and that was pretty well handled. The production design is gorgeous. Cate Blanchett, looks good as the character. The visual effects look decent enough. I mean, again, they don't look like breathtaking, but you know what? Like, they don't look as bad as some of these other visual effects in some of these other movies where you're like, you clearly ran out of money or you just ran out of time. And it's very clear you're trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy. It is just so evident you're trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy. But then again, this happens sometimes where a movie comes out, you don't expect it to do well at the box office, and then the movie, that just becomes like the structure that every studio and filmmaker wants to follow when they tackle a crazy property. I mean, I remember when McG was attached to He-Man, and his whole idea was to model the tone of He-Man after Guardians of the Galaxy. But guess what? Like, not everything has to be like Guardians of the Galaxy. And also, I think people forget, yes, James Gunn has these wacky characters, you go on this adventure, you have all this fun music, but then you have moments where you are emotionally just distraught. Most of the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, you are just emotionally gutted at Rocket Raccoon's backstory. So, in regards to this movie, if you had to ask me what would I give it out of, let's say, like a 5, right? I would go 2 out of 5. It's not good. It's not, again, it has its moments here and there, but it's just a giant mess. And I just don't know what the fuck happened. And again, I don't know if Eli Roth's going to talk. I know that stunt person did say that they shot it initially as an R, then they just cut it down. I don't know how involved Tim Miller was with the editing. There was, I think, like 4 or 5, up to like maybe 6 writers writing new pages. We probably will never know who the fuck Joe Crombie is. For all we know, that could just be an amalgamation of just the 5 or 6 writers writing new pages, because Craig Mason has denied that is his pseudonym. And in regards to video game adaptations, where do we go from here? I don't know. Because it's really hit or miss with video game adaptations now. I mean, like, listen, we've been on a decent streak, but this definitely has set us back. Because I think when you attack a video game property head-on, whether it's film or television, you need to know the game in and out, you need to know what works, and stick to those strengths. Which is why, the Mortal Kombat movie that came out 3 years ago, I had a lot of fun with that. But the main problem was the fact that you are structuring your entire movie around a new character and you don't even have the tournament. Well, luckily with the sequel coming out next year, you have the tournament now, you have Johnny Cage, all the setup is just ready, so you are just gonna fight for probably 2 hours. And in regards to sequels, I don't know what the hell their plans were. Maybe they were wanting this to be a franchise, I don't know. But this is just a situation where maybe Lionsgate should have just shelved it. I mean, I remember when on Tiger Belly, I forget which guest, but Eli Roth, no, not Eli Roth, sorry, Bobby Lee, because Bobby Lee's in the movie. He's admitted multiple times he has like 3 lines in the movie. He was in Budapest for 6 weeks. That's what happens when you're a small part of one of these big movies. Is even if you're only working for a handful of days, you have to be there for long extended periods of time. Anyway, there was a Tiger Belly guest, and they jokingly just said that, like, did you hear that Borderlands was canceled? And then Bobby's like, no? Wait, like, is that true? Is the movie canceled? I think they should have canceled this movie. But then again, maybe they just had the contracts with the big stars that, like, hey, you need to put this out. And then you may be wondering, like, why do they wait so long for reshoots? I think a good answer for that may be trying to figure out the schedules and availabilities of its major cast. Because after they shot this movie, I mean, you had Cate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart, Ariana Greenblatt, and I forget the name of the other guy. He's a great actor. He was Drago's son in Creed 2. He was in Shang-Chi. I feel bad that I can't remember his name right now, but I'm sure you're trying to figure out ways that you can get that cast together again and find everybody's availability. But I don't know, man. This was just a situation where they dropped the ball. I'm not one to say Eli Roth should never direct another movie, because guess what? He has his strengths. His next movie, I believe, is going to be Thanksgiving 2. And you know what? I hope he knocks it out of the park, because the first Thanksgiving was a lot of fun. And he's also just one of these directors where I think he has his skill set. He should probably stay in that skill set. And I don't think he should ever probably attach himself to giant properties like this again. No, I have no problem with him directing, like, because I think The House with a Clock in Its Walls was like a $40 to $45 million movie. Like, stick within that range. But like these giant movies where you're working with a $120 million budget, it's very clear he was out of his element. And I hope that nobody's career is seriously affected by this movie. Whereas, like, you got the Madam Web situation where S.J. Clarkson will probably never direct another movie again. So that's a whole other fucking backstory, which I wonder if they're ever going to write a book about that. So, yeah, these are my thoughts on Borderlands. Like I said, I went to go see it. I paid my money. I laughed here and there, but the movie's not good, man. I don't know what else to say. Again, if you enjoy this movie, good for you. I'm glad you're one of the few people. And then in regards to people that hate it, I get why you would probably hate it. I just did not hate it as much as I thought I was going to. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. And did you see it? What do you think? Comment below.